Namato Ratanatayasa. May I pay homage to triple them, the Buddha and Dhamma and the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. Hello, good evening everyone. So today is Wednesday the 30th of September and 2020. And this is Achan Sujan from Varapunya Meditation Center, Aberdeen, Scotland. So today is a Wednesday, and yesterday was a wonderful weather, and today is raining all day. And I was informed and checked. There is a leak in our living room, the water leak. So I need to get the roofer to fix it again. Hello Pratibha, Rampal, Manish and Margaret and everyone. So this weather changes so drastically nowadays, and there's suddenly such a misty and windy and rain. So our life is also like that, very uncertain, very unsecure, and yet it's such a wonderful to be. And we all experience these things through our senses. Over the couple of days I was talking that our life is five aggregates, a combination of five aggregates, and which is again can be called it as a mind and a body. Physical pain we can cure for certain degrees, and there are certain diseases and illnesses that we cannot control, and such as in getting old. There is no any ways that we cannot get old, although there are cosmetics, surgeries to make you feel still young. And there are cosmetic materials to make your hairs still black, if that's in Asia, covering up all the wrinkles. And yet, over the period of a time, this body will decay, in which we cannot control over it. And as I said already, that this body doesn't feel, and yet it grows and it decays, and finally we have to leave it. So birth was not the question. We cannot question it. Why? So birth is not the question, because we have already born. We cannot question about it. Similarly, a death is also, we cannot question about it, whether we like it or not. The death is there, waiting for us, and we do not know when it is coming. It can come at any time, and it can be at any moment. There is no certain reasons that I will be alive for 100 years. And there is no certain either that maybe tomorrow I am going to die. A death is just at the corner. At any time it will come. So we cannot question about it at all. So birth is out of question, because we are already born. And a death is coming to be, which we cannot deny Doesn't matter how magical power we have, doesn't matter how external energies we have. There is a saying that there is no place that we can hide. Doesn't matter how high up in the space you go and how deep under the ocean you hide. There is no escape from it. So these two are out of question, out of equation in our life. But in between birth and death is the moment of our experience, is the moment that we recognize things, is the moment that we feel that we are still alive, is the moment that we can enjoy and we can entertain this life. So, whether you hate or whether you love, whether you be kind or whether you be cruel, it all happens here in this moment, in between death, in between birth and death. So birth was not our control, was not in our control. Death is not in our control. But in between this is our control. We define, we choose. It's all in our hand, how we want to make this happen. And it's entirely how we shape it. That's why, when I go to the house blessings, normally I question them. The whole house is a place. And it's up to each individual, a member of the community, a member of the house, to make this house into a hell or into a heaven. No one else. If that's a heaven, end of the day, after you went to the offices and tired and working tired and associating with so many people, having a relationship in a different areas, and you want to come back in a house and get rest and relax, feeling secure, a place that your heart is. That's why it is called home. And that's become a heaven. And it's entirely up to each and individual's choice. And meanwhile, you can make it as a hell, that you don't want to come back. Suppose your partner or your family member is always struggling and always causing trouble, or let's say drunk and fighting and quarreling, nonsense talking, and always trying to find fault about you and try to fight with you without any reasons at all, then you don't want to come back. You will find all the possible ways to delay coming back home. And the house become a hell. Always fighting, always quarreling, no peace, no harmony. And that will affect not only to your mental well-being, but also others as well. So that's why, in particularly this time of a COVID-19, that we are all suffering from many different ways. Particularly mentally, we are so suffered. And there is a statistic says that over this so many years, the trouble between the neighbors have increased. Troubles between the family members drastically increased. And domestic violence has also increased. And with that, not only the house that we live, where our heart is and where we rest our hearts and the body and the mind, transforming it into the hell, but also causing the surroundings are toxic, trouble, unhappiness, disharmony, lack of peace, want to go away. Then where we will go, what we will do. So this whole experience in between the birth and the death, that we come to experience this whole world, is simply from our six senses. Eye sees the world, the forms, and cognize and experience about this. Ear hears the sounds and we experience it. Cognizing the something that happens and we recognize it and we entertain with experience with that. Similarly, body comes to contact with the objects and then we experience the whole world. So the whole world, the concept of the world in Buddhism, the Buddha said that it's the six senses. If we shut our eyes, if we shut our ears, if we shut our nose and mouth and no senses, that our body doesn't feel, or then how we will experience the whole world. So the whole world is basically we experience through the six senses. Now we don't have to go and find out anything outside what we are going to be or what is it. If we can be mindful of the six senses, then the whole world become a beautiful place to be. So that's why Buddha said, Chakkuna samvaro sadhu, sadhu sotena samvaro. Be mindful of your eyes. Be mindful of your ears and so on. Be mindful of your all the senses. And with that mindfulness of your senses, the way you perceive, the way you hear, it changes the whole world system. And with that, you will be able to change from cruelty to kindness, from negative to positive, and from hell to heaven. So that's why it is entirely on your hand to make it home or a hell, heaven or a hell. And this whole experience we experience through the six senses. But now here again, what we have to understand, that all the things that we experience through the six senses, but these six senses are not going to act at all. These will just absorb the information and present to the consciousness. And we, whatever we see, we simply gather the information. Whatever we hear, we gather the information. It's a raw information. And on the basis of that raw information, we will act in three ways. I also mentioned yesterday about it. We act in three ways, and we do only three things, not more than that. And that is, physically we will do something. Verbally we do something. And mentally we think something. These are the only three things that we will do once the information is given. So the five aggregate is like the machine. So our whole body is like a machine, is not functioned yet, and that's the five aggregate. The very moment when these five aggregate is assembled, the six senses began to work, and then the six senses comes to contact with the world. So that's why it's called the external six sense base. That moment, then internal six senses comes to contact with the external six senses, and that's good. Basically, I is the internal and external is the form, the I object comes to contact. When it comes to contact, then that moment sparks happens, the consciousness arises, and that's how the six senses work. When the six senses work, then we are alive. We are tuned into the world. And when the six senses comes to contact and it produces the information, and our body, our speech, and the mind will start to work. And that comes under again a sankhara. And we will act through bodily, we will act through speech, verbally, and we will act through mentally by thinking. And these, again, physical action, verbal speech, and mental action, all these three are based on how we consume the information. And again here, it's you who you define to be. And what will it be? If you consume negativities, then everything becomes a negative. If you consume the positive and you think of the positivities, then it brings the positive. So the positivity and negativity in our life is based on how we perceive things through the six senses and how we react through these three doors called the dwara. Okay, so dwara. So in this the third factors of the dhammanupassana satipatthana is the contemplation on six senses. And the ability to understand that six senses defines how we perceive the world to be better or to be worse. And practice of a mindfulness meditation, that's why basically to understand when I see something, when our ear hears something, when our nose takes some smells, when our the tongue, when it takes the test, the body comes to contact and the mind thinks. So the whole world is shaped by the way we come to contact with our senses. Nothing more than that. That's why I always tell to myself that each and every one of us has got our multiple world system. And even the one system, even the one world system within we are engaged, we do not know completely. We do not know completely. We know partially. Some world system or relationship that we have to other people, or relationship to other items, or relationship to any environment or anything, again just partially, maybe 10% or 20%. Unlikely that we have that good relationship for the whole 100% of full. No. So we all have multiple relationship with a multiple world system with the whole world and whole society. Even your world with your partner. Can you confirm to yourself that this is a fullest? The 100% pure relationship is there. 100% that whole world, your world system with your partner is complete. No, there's always something of, misunderstanding or mistrust, or, there is some gap. Think about your friend. You may say that, oh, he or she is my good friend. Do you think that you have full relationship with that person, 100%? No, I don't think so. So that's, again, probably 70% or 80% of this relationship compared to someone when you just met with him in your job or in the train station. That would be probably, again, 10-15% of understanding with this whole the world. So that's why we are living in this multiple world system that we have created through our senses and relationship with them. And this relationship we cognized through our senses, and we experience as much as we are in contact with it. And with that contact, again, we act in the suitable form or suitable ways, by physically, by verbally, and by mentally. Oftentimes you go to the parties of someone you don't want to be, but you will be there just to fulfill your duty. Oftentimes you want to say something, and yet you did say nothing. Because the world between you and them, or the relationship that you have to yourself, to that person, is so limited. And I call this as a world system, that you and that person, relationship, and this is a one world system that you have. It's so limited. That's why you don't want to. And sometimes this limitation created because we hear words by somebody or gossips, or we have seen something at front that he or she has done something which against you like it or you dislike it. Then again the world begin to crack. And this crack simply because I comes to contact with something that he or she has done which is against my wish or my understanding. Then the crack begins. And that crack simply begins through the mind. And then physically we distance. And verbally, again, speech becomes more distance between one and another. Like that. So the whole system is built up on the basis of the six senses, and it can be developed into the cracks based on the six senses. When you like, because you have a good relationship, because you see he's a good person or she's a good, nice person, and then you began to build up your relationship with that person by physically and speaking, or maybe even mentally thinking with that. And with that, you're making the world between you and that person more happy, enjoyable, and makes sense, like I want to be with that person. Same time, if that person does something against your wish or against your values or your attitude, then again the whole world system begins to collapse, or slowly the distance begins, mentally, verbally, and also physically. So that's why the world system that we are living in this multiple world system that we have come across through our senses, the relationship that build up through our senses with the outside world, and we cognize, the remember and memorizing with it. And with that, we are acting with our mind, with our body, and with our speech. Nothing more than that. But the very moment when we practice meditation, what happens is that we become more aware of, firstly, our physical action, verbal action. we be aware of that, and gradually it takes up into our senses. In order to be mindful of the verbal and or control our verbal and physical action, that's why there is the 5 precepts which helps us to control our physical action and verbal action. The very moment when we become a controller of this physical and verbal action, and gradually it helps us to control our senses. And that's why it says Chakkhuna samvaro sadhu sadhu sotena samvaro, etc. And we will be able to restrain our own senses. And whatever we experience it as natural as it is, or understanding as they truly are, rather than we are trying to shape it into what we like it. So we have a choice to make it or to break it. And a making or a breaking is entirely up to you, how much you understand. And this understanding develops through understanding your sense. So I end here tonight with this introduction or relationship to the 3rd aspects of the dhammanupassana, the 6 sense basis, in the right mindfulness. And again, this right mindfulness is the 7 factors of an Eightfold Noble Path. And again, this Eightfold Noble Path is the 4th factors of a 4 Noble Truth. And this 4 Noble Truth, again, I am explaining on the basis of the first discourse of the Buddha, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutra. So, tomorrow is full moon day, and which is the end of the Vassa. The 3 months rain retreat of the monks ends tomorrow. So tomorrow is a very special day, and we will have this special ceremony also known as a Pavarana. So I will be explaining that tomorrow for you all. With this reflection, thank you everyone, and may you all be well and happy. Take care, be safe, and may the Buddha Dhamma Sangha bless you. In a few moments time we will have a chanting and guided meditation. You are most welcome to join with us. Until then, good night, take care, and see you shortly. Thank you. Sadhu.